When people ask me what finally made me cut ties with my family, I usually give them some watered-down answer like, "Oh, we just grew apart," or "It was time to focus on myself." But the truth? It was a whole lot more complicated. It starts with a graduation, two very different celebrations, and a Facebook post that made my stomach drop. My name is Colton. I'm 22 now, but this happened a little over a year ago. It was supposed to be one of the happiest weekends of my life, my college graduation. Instead, it turned into the moment everything snapped. I come from one of those families where favoritism isn't whispered about, it's practically flaunted. My younger sister, Cassidy, has always been the golden child. Don't get me wrong, she's smart, outgoing, a natural people pleaser. But so am I. I just didn't fit into the same picture-perfect mold my parents worshipped. I wasn't the star of the cheer squad, or homecoming queen, or the one with a perfectly curated Instagram. I was more quiet, more independent. I worked 2 part-time jobs through school, took night classes, graduated with honors. And somehow, I was always just a background character in my own family. Growing up, it was little things. Cassidy got a new phone every Christmas, while mine were usually hand-me-downs with cracked screens. She'd get a ride to parties at 11 p.m. while I was grounded for missing curfew by 10 minutes. She got piano lessons, voice lessons, art classes. I got told to be grateful the lights are still on. I stopped arguing after a while. Stopped expecting things to be fair. That was just the dynamic. Cassidy sparkled, and I stayed out of the way. Still, I thought maybe, just maybe, graduating college would be the moment they saw me. Really saw me. I was the first in the family to finish a 4-year degree. I'd been busting my tail for 4 years, pulling all-nighters, saving every penny, skipping breaks to stay ahead. And despite all of that, despite knowing better, I let myself hope. I told them the date of my ceremony months in advance. I sent reminders. I even offered to help them book a hotel if they needed one. My grandma, bless her, called me every week leading up to it. "We're so proud of you, Colton," she'd say. "This is your moment." Cassidy had graduated high school 2 years earlier, and my parents threw what basically amounted to a mini wedding reception. They rented out a fancy banquet hall downtown, hired a DJ, had custom cupcakes with her face printed on them. There were speeches, flowers, balloons, everything. At the end of the night, they handed her an envelope and announced, with big dramatic flair, that they were sending her on a week-long trip to Greece. "You've earned this, sweetheart," Mom had said, brushing her hair back like she was royalty. I clapped and smiled, but the whole way home, I remember sitting in the back seat, staring out the window, wondering if they'd do even half as much for me. My graduation came on a Saturday. I didn't expect Greece or even cupcakes. I just wanted them to show up, to care. I wore the same suit I'd used for my internship interviews, pressed and neat. My best friend, Micah, came all the way from another state. My roommate's parents brought flowers for me. Me, not their kid, because they said no one should graduate without flowers. It meant a lot. But when I scanned the crowd during the ceremony, I saw one familiar face, my grandma. She waved like she was trying to land a plane. My parents and Cassidy? Nowhere. I tried to push down the disappointment. Maybe something came up. Maybe they were running late. But no call, no text, no excuse. Nothing. After the ceremony, I found Grandma near the fountain outside the venue, holding a small gift bag and a Tupperware container. "It's your favorite," she said, lifting the lid to show her famous chicken spaghetti. I smiled, hugged her, and tried not to cry. "They said they were busy," she added quietly, not meeting my eyes. "Your father mentioned work, but I'm not sure that's the whole story." We sat on a bench, and she handed me a card. It was one of those generic graduation cards with glittery letters. Inside, scribbled in rushed handwriting. "Congrats, Colton. Mom and Dad." My name was spelled wrong. Colton, after 22 years. And Cassidy, not even a signature. I laughed, not out of humor, out of disbelief. Then I looked at Grandma, whose eyes were already misty, and I hugged her tight. "Thanks for coming, Grandma," I said. "It means more than you know." I took a photo of the card and the leftovers when I got back to my apartment. Posted it to my private story with a simple caption, "Graduation Feast." Then I hugged my grandma goodbye and told her I needed to catch up on sleep. She hesitated before she left. "You sure you're okay, baby?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm used to it." I wasn't. I stayed up most of the night replaying everything in my head. The silence from my parents. The look on my grandma's face when she gave me that Tupperware. The card. God, the card. I knew I wasn't the favorite, but I didn't think they'd make it this obvious. It felt like being punched in the gut with indifference. Still, I didn't say anything. Didn't send a text. Didn't start a fight. I figured they'd forget it even happened. But then, the next morning, my phone buzzed around 9 a.m. It was my aunt, my dad's sister. We weren't super close, but she'd always been kind to me, the kind of person who slipped me $20 just because at family reunions. Her name lit up my screen, followed by a voicemail, and then a text. Sweetheart, you might want to see what your dad just posted on Facebook. I stared at the message. My stomach did a weird flip. And even though I had a bad feeling, I opened the app. That was the moment everything changed. My thumb hovered over the Facebook app icon for a second too long. Something in me already knew it wasn't going to be good. It's funny how sometimes your gut knows before your brain catches up. How one message from a relative who rarely reaches out can send your heart sprinting like it's being chased. I tapped it open, and for a moment, my screen froze on the loading wheel. My pulse drummed against my neck like it was counting down. And then there it was. My dad's post. 2 crisp photos and a caption that felt like a slap in the face. Photo 1. Cassidy, standing in front of what looked like the exact same hall they'd rented for her high school graduation 2 years ago. Hair curled, makeup flawless, standing next to a banner that read, "Congratulations, Cassidy, future nurse," even though she'd just completed her 2nd year of college and hadn't even started clinicals yet. She wasn't graduating from anything, just finishing sophomore year. Photo 2. My parents, flanking her on both sides, beaming with pride. Cassidy held up what looked like a ticket envelope in one hand and a sparkly Greek flag in the other. Yep, they were sending her back to Greece. Again. Caption. Couldn't be prouder of our girl Cassidy. You've worked so hard and deserve every bit of this celebration. Surprise trip to Greece round 2. Love you, sweetheart. You make this family proud every single day. No mention of me. No hint that their son had graduated college literally yesterday. I scrolled down the comments. Aunt Janet. Didn't Colton just graduate yesterday? Thought I saw something on Michelle's story. Dad. He had a small ceremony, but Cassidy's accomplishments are once in a lifetime. She's doing real work that changes lives. Another relative commented. So when does Colton get his big trip? My mom replied with, he prefers to keep things low-key. Low-key. I stared at my screen for so long it dimmed. My ears were ringing. I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing until I sucked in air and felt it burn my throat. I wasn't angry yet, not exactly. I was numb, like someone had scooped out my chest and replaced it with static. I didn't even cry, not at first. I just sat there, reading the comments, rereading the caption, until the words blurred into nothing. Micah walked in around noon, still in pajamas, holding 2 coffees. He took one look at me and asked, "What happened?" I turned my phone around and handed it to him. He read in silence, then sat beside me and muttered, "Wow. Just wow." "I didn't even get a cake," I said. "They misspelled my name on the card." Micah set the coffee down slowly, like it would shatter otherwise. "You okay, man?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to lie and make a joke and move on like I always did. But something cracked open in me. The kind of crack that doesn't just split. You feel it echo. "No," I said. "Not really." He stayed quiet. We sat there for a while, watching a silent rerun of Shark Tank play on mute in the background. Eventually, I opened Instagram and checked Cassidy's story. It was a video of her at the party, giggling while champagne sprayed behind her. My mom was crying, holding her hand, saying, "You've always been our brightest light." Our. As in, both of them. I didn't exist. Not yesterday. Not now. The rest of the day blurred by. I didn't text them. They didn't text me. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. I kept thinking about every time I'd made excuses for them. Every time I'd said, "They're just stressed," or "Cassidy needs more support," or "It's not that deep." But it was that deep. It had been years of small cuts that I'd tried to ignore. I just hadn't realized how deep I was bleeding until now. Grandma called the next morning. Her voice was soft, careful. "Baby, I saw the post." "Yeah," I said. "Me too." A pause. Then, it's not you, right? This isn't about you not being enough. It's about them not seeing what's right in front of them. I swallowed hard. I know, but it still hurts. She didn't try to fix it. Just listened. I didn't hear from my parents that whole week. No follow-up. No, sorry we couldn't make it. Nothing. Then on Thursday, Cassidy posted another photo, this time from Greece. Poolside, glass of wine. Caption, celebrating hard work and support that actually means something, #family first. That one broke me. The passive aggression wasn't even subtle. I could feel it, sharp and smug. It wasn't enough to ignore me. They had to twist the knife, too. I showed the post to Micah. She's taunting me. He nodded. It's like they're daring you to react. I didn't. Not publicly. But inside, something shifted. Something long overdue. I spent that weekend replaying our childhood. The patterns were all there. Like the time Cassidy accidentally broke my laptop in high school and my parents said it was my fault for leaving it on the kitchen table. Or the time I got into my first choice university and mom asked if I'd consider deferring because Cassidy was having a rough senior year and we don't want to take attention away from her. I'd been disappearing for years. And I let them. The next week, I finally got a text from my mom. Mom, hey honey. Sorry we missed your ceremony. We were super swamped with Cassidy's finals and planning everything for her celebration. Hope it went well. Dad said Grandma was there, so at least you weren't alone. I stared at it. No apology. No acknowledgement of the Facebook post. Just vague, deflective nonsense. Micah looked over my shoulder and said, don't respond. I won't. And I didn't. A few days later, Grandma invited me to dinner. She'd made lemon chicken and mashed potatoes. We sat at her tiny kitchen table, sunlight leaking through the lace curtains. I know things feel heavy right now, she said, passing the rolls. But you don't have to carry it alone. I nodded, unsure of how to respond. Do you remember what I told you when you were little? That you'd grow up and people would show you who they are, not with their words, but with their actions. I remember. She set her fork down. Well, sweetheart, they've shown you. And you get to decide what you do with that. The next morning, Cassidy called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message chirped through the phone speaker as I got dressed. Hey. So, Mom and Dad said you've been kinda distant? Just checking in. Also, I need a favor. My friend Jess is trying to get into your university, and she wants to talk to someone who went through the program. Can I give her your number? No, congrats. No, sorry we missed your graduation. Just straight to the ask. I deleted the message. That night, I got another text from Dad. Dad, you've been very quiet lately. We know you're upset, but sulking isn't helpful. Cassidy's party wasn't meant to be a slight against you. She's just had a more intense workload, and we wanted to give her a little extra motivation. A little extra motivation. I felt my jaw tighten. I typed out a dozen responses, deleted all of them. I thought about calling Grandma. But instead, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a rant. Not a post. Just everything. Every memory. Every slight. Every moment I'd swallowed my voice just to keep the peace. The truth was, I didn't want to be the quiet one anymore. And then, 2 days later, the real betrayal came. Micah and I were grabbing lunch when my phone buzzed with a notification from Venmo. Cassidy had sent me $10 with a caption that read, "For the card we forgot to get you, LOL." Micah read it over my shoulder and whispered, "Are you freaking kidding me?" No, they were not. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the glow of my computer screen. I opened Facebook again, looked at the post, the comments, the likes, the fakeness of it all. I wasn't just forgotten. I was erased, but not for long, because in that moment, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I didn't want revenge, not in the petty sense. I wanted truth. I wanted to take back the narrative, not to hurt them, but to finally be heard, to be seen. And I knew just how to make that happen. There's something eerie about silence after betrayal. You'd expect anger, shouting, some kind of explosion, but all I felt was a thick, still emptiness. Like everything that had ever tethered me to my family had finally rotted away, and now I was just floating. Detached. Alone. But not in the lonely, weepy way. No, this was the kind of alone that felt clean. Cold, but clear. Like I'd stepped out of a house that had been filling with smoke for years, and only now realized how toxic the air had become. After Cassidy sent me $10 for the card we forgot to get you, LOL, I didn't respond. I didn't even open the app again. What do you say to someone who sees you're hurt and decides it's funny? I just locked my phone and stared out the window, my breath fogging up the glass as rain quietly stitched lines down the pane. That was the moment I hit bottom. It wasn't even about the money, or the party, or the Facebook post. It was what it all meant. That I could give everything, years of effort, pride, exhaustion, pushing myself forward, and it would still never be enough for them. They didn't just forget me. They wanted me to stay forgotten. It was more comfortable for them that way. Cassidy got to shine brighter if I stayed in the shadows. But here's the thing about rock bottom. There's nowhere left to sink. And that night, sitting in the dim light of my tiny studio apartment, with the hum of the fridge and the patter of rain keeping me company, I decided I was done waiting to be seen. I started with a list. Not a to-do list. Not goals. A truth list. I wrote down every time I could remember feeling erased, ignored, or minimized by them. The birthday when they went on vacation and told me I was being dramatic. The time I made the dean's list, and they said, well, college is easier these days. The trip to see Cassidy's performance 3 states away when they couldn't find time to visit me 10 minutes from home. The graduation. The card. The Venmo. Page after page poured out of me. And when it was done, I felt lighter. Not healed, but clearer. Like I had a map now, one that pointed directly away from them. That summer, I didn't go home. Micah's parents offered me their guest room for a few weeks while I figured things out. I accepted, grateful and a little embarrassed, but they were nothing but warm. His mom asked what I wanted for dinner. His dad gave me career advice. When they toasted me at dinner for graduating, I nearly teared up. This is what being supported feels like. No performance, no guilt, just presence. While staying there, I updated my resume. Spent late nights researching jobs in cities I'd never dared consider. San Diego, Chicago, Boston. For the first time, I let myself imagine a life completely separate from my family's gravitational pull. One where I didn't have to keep orbiting around Cassidy's accomplishments or shrinking myself so she could expand. It wasn't easy. I had days where I doubted everything. Nights where I stared at my phone, tempted to send one last text. Do you even care? Why did you treat me like that? But I didn't. I knew their silence wasn't ignorance. It was intentional. I got a job interview in Austin. It was a long shot, entry-level data analyst at a mid-sized firm, but I prepped like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. Micah drove me to the airport. You nervous? Terrified, I said. But it feels like the good kind. He smiled. Go prove them wrong. The interview went well. The city was warm and weird and alive. I didn't know a soul there, but for the first time, that wasn't scary. It was exhilarating. A week later, I got the call. You got the job, the recruiter said. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before whispering, really? Really? We're excited to have you, Colton. I moved 3 weeks later. Tiny apartment. Crappy furniture. No AC for the first 2 days. But it was mine. Every box I unpacked felt like shedding another layer of old skin. I didn't tell my parents I moved. They never asked. Meanwhile, Cassidy posted about her trip. Pictures on a yacht, posing in front of ancient ruins, beach sunsets with captions like, manifesting good vibes Dizzy. Mom commented on every photo. So proud of you, baby. Our shining star. Look at that smile. The silence from them was so loud it felt intentional. I wasn't just forgotten, I was removed. At work, I started slow. Entry level meant long hours, grunt tasks, lots of spreadsheets. But I loved it. It was concrete, measurable. Effort in, results out. No favoritism. Just data. I stayed late. Asked questions. Took notes. My manager, Dev, noticed. You've got a good head for patterns, he told me. You ever consider analytics strategy? I blinked. I've thought about it, but start thinking harder. You've got a future here. It was the first time someone outside of school had looked at me and seen potential, not just obligation. I felt it like a jolt to the chest. I kept going. Took online courses in Python. Learned SQL in my off hours. Said yes to every project, even the ones that scared me. And slowly, things started to shift. I got invited to meetings. Given more autonomy. 6 months in, I was running the monthly performance report presentations. Dev pulled me aside after one and said, You're storyboarding? Best I've seen from someone your level. I want you to mentor one of our new hires. I nodded, stunned. Yeah, I'd love to. Meanwhile, I never heard a word from my family. Not one. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Micah's family again. When Grandma called to say she missed me, I nearly cried. Wish I could see you, she said. I know, Grandma. Me too. Your mom said you're busy with work, she added carefully. But she never mentioned where you're living now. She never asked. Silence. Colton, she said softly. Don't let them make you feel small. You're not small. You're the biggest-hearted person I know. After the call, I went for a walk and watched the city lights stretch across the skyline. I didn't feel angry anymore. Just determined. I didn't need their approval. I had built something better. Something real. And then came the message that made everything crack open again. Cassidy. Out of nowhere, one night in March, she sent a long DM on Instagram. At first glance, it looked sweet. Apologetic, even. Hey Colton. I know things have been weird between us. I want to say I'm sorry if you felt left out at graduation. I truly didn't mean to hurt you. I know mom and dad can be a little much sometimes, and I should have spoken up. I was caught up in everything and didn't realize how it must have looked. I hope you're doing okay. I actually wanted to ask if you'd be open to chatting. Jess is applying to UT Austin for grad school, and I think she could really benefit from your insight since you're there. I read it 3 times. Not, I'm sorry for what we did, but I'm sorry if you felt hurt. Not ownership, just gentle deflection. And then the ask. There it was again. The pattern. Apologize just enough to look good, then pivot straight into what she needed from me. I didn't reply. Instead, I kept building. I started journaling, running, cooking for myself. I made friends in the city, people who liked me, not the version of me my family tolerated. I dated a little. I smiled more. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't holding my breath waiting for approval that would never come. But part of me, some deep, unhealed part, still wanted closure. Not revenge. Not a Facebook clapback. Just the truth. Out in the open. A record. Something that couldn't be twisted or ignored. And when I finally figured out how to do that, I knew it would change everything. It started with an idea. A way to share my story, not just with them, but with everyone who had ever felt like the invisible kid. I spent weeks sketching it out, planning, writing. And when it was done, I clicked post. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't name names. But I told the story. My story. Of 2 graduations. Of a misspelled card and microwave leftovers. Of a $10 Venmo and years of silence. Of finding myself after being forgotten. I didn't expect what happened next. The post went live on a quiet Sunday afternoon. No hashtags. No photos. No passive-aggressive emojis. Just a raw, honest account. I titled it something like, The Graduation That Never Happened, and it opened with the sentence. For my sister's graduation, they rented a hall, hired a photographer, and surprised her with a trip to Greece. For mine, I got leftovers in a microwave and a card with my name spelled wrong. It wasn't a rant. I didn't rage. I didn't accuse anyone by name. I just told the truth, the full truth, layer by layer. The way they'd always celebrated her. The way I'd stayed silent. The comments. The card. The $10 Venmo. And the moment I realized I didn't need their recognition to matter, I ended it with a few words that had echoed in my chest for months. Sometimes, you don't need an apology. You just need to walk away without looking back. I posted it and turned off my phone. Micah and I went for tacos. I didn't bring it up. I didn't even check my notifications until the next morning, and when I did, I had to sit down. It had exploded. I didn't expect it to go viral, not really. I'd posted it to a mid-size Reddit thread about family dynamics and favoritism, and then cross-posted a shortened version to my private Instagram with maybe 300 followers. But apparently, someone screenshotted it, shared it to Twitter, and from there, it caught fire. Hundreds of comments. Thousands of likes. Dozens of DMs from strangers saying, "Thank you. This is my story too." Some of the messages hit harder than I expected. You put into words something I've carried for years. I didn't know other people felt this. My brother was always the favorite. I thought I was just being sensitive. Reading this made me cry in my car. There was something about the quiet solidarity of it all that stunned me. I hadn't written it for attention. I'd written it because it was finally too heavy to carry in silence. But now I wasn't alone. Not everyone was supportive. A few trolls popped up. Cry harder. You're just jealous. Get over it. But the overwhelming response was compassion. And beneath that compassion, something else started to stir: validation. Power. Not power like revenge fantasy power, but a kind of clarity. Like I had finally turned the lights on in a room I'd been stumbling through my whole life. Then, a few days later, I got the message I didn't expect. Grandma. She'd seen the post. "I read your story, Colton," she wrote in an email. She always preferred email. "And I want you to know, every word rang true. I'm sorry I didn't do more when you were younger. I always thought love would balance it all out. But sometimes silence just becomes complicity. I'm so proud of you for telling your truth. That email broke me, and then it rebuilt me. Because for the first time, I had a witness. Not a stranger, not a distant friend. Someone inside the family who saw it too. And suddenly, the idea I'd been nursing in the background began to sharpen. I realized something. I didn't need revenge to hurt them. I needed justice. I needed truth in the open, consequences that weren't about cruelty, but about accountability. And Cassidy, well, she gave me the opening I didn't even have to ask for. It started with another message, this time more formal, more calculated. Hey Colton, just saw your post. Wow, you really made us sound like monsters LOL. Mom's freaking out. She says Aunt Janet and Uncle Rob saw it, and now everyone's gossiping. Anyway, I'm assuming this is about you still being mad about graduation? If it makes you feel better, I talked to Mom, and she says she's open to making it up to you if you want to come home this summer. Maybe we can throw a party or something. No hard feelings. Also, let me know if Jess can still reach out. She's super nervous about UT. I read it 3 times. What she was really saying was, clean this up. Walk it back. Be a good brother again. Help me. Help my friend. Make Mom stop looking bad at church. And that's when I decided, no more playing along. I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I started gathering. Not in a dramatic movie hacker way. No revenge board with red string on the wall, but I started quietly documenting. Screenshots, old messages, photos, memories. I asked Grandma to send me photos from my graduation day, the ones she'd taken outside the venue, where I'm standing in my cap and gown with a Tupperware container balanced on my knees. Then I did something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. I reopened my old blog. Back in high school, I used to write about study tips, book reviews, random thoughts. Nothing major, but I still had the login, still had the domain name. It was clean, untouched. I wrote a new post, this time with names, not for drama, for truth. I told the story again, but now fully, with receipts, with context. I uploaded photos, the party hall for Cassidy, the banquet cake, the grease envelope, the misspelled card from my graduation, and the Venmo message that felt like a punchline to a cruel joke. I wrote it carefully, calmly. No rage, no bitterness, just truth. I titled it, Being the Invisible Son, a Graduation Story. It wasn't viral like the Reddit post, but it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to exist. To be a record. A place where, if anyone ever asked, why don't you talk to your family? I could point and say here, this is why. Then I sent the link to Aunt Janet. That's all I did. Not because I wanted it to spread, but because I knew it would. Aunt Janet had always been the unspoken backbone of the extended family grapevine. A single text from her could unravel years of silence. Within a week, I got 3 separate texts from cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Colton, I always wondered why you were treated so differently. Dude, that blog hit me hard. My mom's been talking about it nonstop. I'm sorry. I wish I'd seen it back then. Then came the fallout. My mom emailed me, her first direct contact in nearly a year. Colton, I read your blog. I can't believe you would air family business like that to the public. That was a private matter. I'm ashamed of the way you're handling this. We were going to make it up to you. We just needed time. But now you've humiliated your sister and your father. I hope it was worth it. Mom, no apology, no acknowledgement, just shame and blame. But something about that message made me laugh. Because for once, it wasn't me who felt ashamed. It was them. And I realized this wasn't revenge. This was freedom. Still, I wasn't done. Micah and I went for drinks that Friday, and I told him the whole plan. He raised his glass. So what now? You going to drop a nuke? I shook my head. No, just a mirror. Because Cassidy's friend Jess, the one who wanted to get into UT, she had reached out. Not directly, but through a mutual friend. Turns out, she'd applied and was waiting on an interview. And guess who the admissions team had invited to a student panel as an alumni rep? Yours truly. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same family that couldn't bother to show up to my graduation now wanted to use my achievements to boost someone else. So I made a note. Not to sabotage Jess, she wasn't the villain here. But I'd make sure the right story was told. The full story. If she asked me how to stand out on her application, I'd tell her, be honest. Be authentic. Don't take shortcuts. And don't let other people fight your battles for you. I started writing again. Articles. Posts. Submissions to bigger blogs about family estrangement and finding identity outside of your roots. I wasn't naming names anymore. I didn't need to. The lesson had outgrown the story. And behind the scenes, I was planning something else. Something quieter. More personal. It had to do with Grandma. She'd been my only constant. The only one who showed up. Who cooked for me. Who called just to say I love you. And I knew she didn't have much. Lived off a fixed income. Her roof needed repairs. Her garden had overgrown because of her arthritis. So I started saving. Cut expenses. Picked up freelance data analysis projects on the side. Said no to every party and every unnecessary splurge. I tracked every dollar. Because I had a new goal. I wanted to pay off her mortgage. Not to flex. Not to post about it. Just because she was the only one who had ever truly seen me. And I wanted to give her something back that didn't come with strings or conditions or guilt. That was my real revenge. Not a party. Not a confrontation. Just becoming someone they couldn't control, couldn't belittle, couldn't erase. And when the day finally came, when I made the last transfer and surprised her with the paperwork, I knew what my next move would be. Because the last step in my setup was finally letting my parents know the cost of their silence. I waited 3 days after I paid off Grandma's mortgage. Not out of hesitation, but because I wanted to be calm, strategic, clear-eyed. Revenge, when done right, doesn't need fireworks. It just needs timing. Grandma cried when I told her. Not the delicate, dabbing her eyes kind of cry. The real kind. The full body, trembling lip. I thought I'd be buried with that debt kind. I didn't say anything. I just held her hand while she sat in her sunroom, surrounded by the roses she hadn't been able to tend in years. I never wanted you to feel alone, she whispered. I'm sorry they made you feel like you didn't matter. You're the reason I know I do, I said. That night, as she slept peacefully for the first time in what felt like forever, I sat in her old living room, the one with the creaky fan and the weird floral couch, and opened my laptop. It was time. I drafted one email. Just one. Subject line, a graduation gift of my own. I addressed it to my mom and dad. CC'd Cassidy. I read it 3 times before I hit send. Hi Mom, Dad, and Cassidy. I figured it was time to return the favor. You gave Cassidy 2 graduation parties, 2 trips to Greece, and a full banquet celebration. You gave me a card with my name spelled wrong and leftovers in the microwave. So I gave myself a gift this year. I bought something. Her name is still on the mailbox, but she doesn't owe a dime anymore. The house is hers now, paid in full. You know, the only person who showed up at my graduation? She doesn't have to worry about her mortgage again. Thought you might like to know what a quiet son does with his life when no one's looking. No response needed. I'm not interested in apologies. I just wanted you to understand that the invisible son you ignored made himself seen. Colton. I didn't expect a reply. I got 3. Cassidy responded first, of course. Less than 20 minutes later. Colton. I don't even know what to say. That's such a kind thing to do for Grandma. I'm sorry if I made you feel less than. That was never my intention. I wish we could talk in person sometime. I feel like we lost our way. I stared at it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was safe. Polished. Non-committal. And full of if-s and feel like s. Still no ownership. Still know you were wronged and we failed you. I didn't respond. Dad's email came that night. Colton, I'll admit, this one stings. I won't lie and pretend I didn't read your blog. I did. So did half the family. Your Aunt Janet's been passing it around like it's gospel. I wish you'd come to us before airing everything online. But I can't deny what you wrote. I failed you. We did. Your sister was easy to praise because she demanded it. You were quiet. You made it easy for us to overlook you, and that's no excuse. That's a flaw in me I can't walk back. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope you find peace. And I hope one day you let us try to rebuild something. Dad. It surprised me. Not because it was perfect. It wasn't. But because it was the first time my father had said, I failed you in my entire life. And then came the last email. My mother. Colton. I read your message, and I've been thinking about it for hours. Days, honestly. I knew you were hurt by how we handled your graduation, but I didn't realize just how deep that pain went. Your sister has always needed more from us. Emotionally, socially, financially. You were independent. You never asked for anything. I thought we were giving you what you wanted, space, autonomy. I see now that I was wrong. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to, if you'll let me. Love. Mom. I closed my laptop. Not angry. Not elated. Just done. Their messages didn't change anything. Not really. They didn't undo the years. They didn't erase the quiet birthdays, the missed milestones, the way I'd watched them glow for Cassidy while I stood just outside the frame. But they saw me now, and that was enough. That weekend, I went back to Grandma's house with a few bags of mulch, new gardening gloves, and a pair of hedge trimmers. We spent the entire Saturday in her front yard. Me on my knees, pulling weeds. Her in a sun hat, humming old songs. Neighbors waved as they passed. One woman, a few houses down, leaned over the fence. Glad to see someone finally helping her, she said. That family of hers is always too busy. I smiled. Not anymore. When the sun dipped low and the sky turned sherbet orange, Grandma brought out lemonade in her favorite pitcher. We sat on the porch, sipping in silence. I still can't believe you did all this, she said. Paid off the house. Came back. I didn't do it to impress them, I said. I did it because you were the only one who treated me like I mattered. She reached for my hand. You always mattered, baby. Sometimes people just don't know how to show it. Sometimes they don't want to. I nodded, watching a robin peck at the grass near the sidewalk. That night, as I drove back to Austin, my phone buzzed with another message. This time, from a cousin I barely knew, one of the younger ones. Hey, I saw your post. I always felt invisible too. Reading yours helped me finally say something to my parents. Just wanted to say thanks. I smiled. Not because I wanted to be a savior. Not because I wanted validation. But because I realized something. The best revenge isn't loud. It's not petty. It's not about returning pain with pain. It's living well, fully, in a way that makes the people who dismissed you feel your absence more than they ever appreciated your presence. And now, they feel it. Every quiet mile of it.